Welcome back to the LUDIP Writing Manual Lecture Series. In Chapter 3, we covered what goes inside the LUDIP document. Every required section, every content requirement from the campus profile all the way to the annexes. Now in Chapter 4, we shift focus from what to write to how to write it well. Chapter 4 is the technical quality guide of the manual. It covers 5 key areas: GIS standards and mapping formats, how your maps must be prepared, file formats for submission, what file types are required and how to organize them, referencing and citation of data, how to properly credit your sources, terminology, consistency, and glossary, how to use language precisely and uniformly, gender and inclusive language, how to write in a way that reflects your campus's commitment to equity, plus a set of additional writing tips to help your document stand out for the right reasons. These may sound like housekeeping details, but they are not. A technically well-written LUDIP moves through the review process faster, earns more credibility, and ultimately serves your campus better. Let's get into it. Before we dive into the specifics, let's talk about why technical quality matters so much in a LUDIP. The LUDIP is a document that will be reviewed by multiple parties: your campus TWG, the Planning and Development Office, the Academic and Administrative Councils, the Board of Regents, and potentially CHED itself. Every one of those reviewers is looking at your document for completeness, accuracy, consistency, and credibility. A LUDIP with inconsistent terminology, missing map elements, improperly cited data, or poorly formatted file signals to reviewers that the planning process itself may have been rushed or careless. On the other hand, a clean, well-organized, technically sound LUDIP signals something very different. It tells reviewers that your campus took this seriously, that your data is trustworthy, and that your plan is ready to be implemented. Technical quality is not about aesthetics. It is about professional credibility. Let's start with GIS standards and mapping formats, because maps are not just supporting visuals in the LUDIP. They are among its most critical components. Every major decision in your LUDIP, where to build, what zones to designate, which areas to protect, where the hazards are, is communicated spatially. If your maps are inaccurate, incomplete, or inconsistently formatted, the entire analytical foundation of your LUDIP is weakened. The manual is very specific. All maps must be generated using standardized Geographic Information System tools, commonly known as GIS, to ensure spatial accuracy and usability. The standard coordinate system required for all geospatial data is WGS 84/UTM Zone 51N, with a EPSG code 32651. This is non-negotiable. It ensures that all campus maps across the CPSU system are spatially compatible and can be integrated into a unified institutional map. Every map you include in the LUDIP must contain the following required elements. No exceptions. Title and subtitle. Your map must have a clear main title. For example, CPSU Greenland 2018 to 2028 Administrative Map, and a subtitle identifying the specific campus and its location, such as Central Philippine State University, Cabancalan City, Province of Negros Occidental. Scale and distance indicator. Both a numerical scale and a graphical distance bar must be included so that readers can understand actual distances on the map. Legend. Every symbol, color, and line type on the map must be explained. Roads, river systems, barangay boundaries, all of it must be clearly labeled in the legend. Geographic features. Relevant barangays, political boundaries, and coordinates must be identified on the map. Coordinates and projection system. The projection system, WGS 84 UTM Zone 51N, must be clearly indicated on every map. Data sources and credits. Every map must attribute its data sources, whether from CPSU, PEMO, NAMRIA, PhilGIS, or other agencies, and identify who prepared, reviewed, and approved it. This includes the names and designations of the preparing officers and the approving authority. Administrative notes. Each map should note the purpose it serves within the LUDIP and the planning timeframe it covers. These elements are not optional extras. They're the standard for every map in your submission. The manual also specifies the types of thematic maps that should be included in the LUDIP and notes that campuses should select those that are relevant to their specific context. The full list includes administrative map, showing political boundaries and campus locations. Tenure map, showing land ownership and tenurial status. Watershed map, showing water catchment areas relevant to the campus. Land classification map, showing how land is officially classified. Elevation map, showing topographic features. Slope map, identifying areas prone to erosion or unstable for construction. Soil map, showing soil types relevant to land use decisions. Forest conservation zone map, identifying protected forest areas. Climate map, showing climate zones and rainfall patterns. Hazard map, showing flood, landslide, and other disaster risk zones. Proposed land use plan map, your future land use vision. General land use plan map, your current land use reality. Infrastructure map, showing existing and planned infrastructure. And a site development plan map, showing the detailed layout of campus facilities. Each GIS file must also be accompanied by metadata, a record detailing the data source, date collected, map scale, and contact person responsible for the file. Maps without metadata are maps that cannot be verified, and unverified data weakens your entire plan. Next, file formats for submission. This may seem like a small detail, but submitting files in the wrong format is one of the most common and easily avoidable mistakes in LUDIP submissions. The manual is very clear on what is required for each type of file. For narrative and report documents, submit an editable copy in .docs format. This allows reviewers to annotate and suggest revisions. Submit a final signed version in .pdf format. This is the official record. For mapping and GIS files, submit editable GIS layers in .shop, shapefile, or .kml format. Submit map outputs as high-resolution .pdf and .png files. For spreadsheets and data tables, submit in both .xlsx and .pdf formats. And critically, all digital files must be organized in a labeled folder structure with a cover index or file directory. Do not submit a disorganized collection of files. Name everything clearly, organize it logically, and include a guide that tells the reviewer exactly what is inside each folder. The naming convention the manual prescribes follows this format. Simple, consistent, and unmistakable. Follow this format for every file you submit. This may seem like a minor detail, but incorrect file formats are one of the most common reasons for delays in review. Now let's talk about referencing and citation of data, because in a planning document, where your data comes from matters just as much as what the data says. The LUDIP uses APA 7th edition as its institutional citation style. Every piece of data you present, demographic figures, land area measurements, hazard assessments, environmental data, must be cited with a proper reference. Sources that must always be cited include government agencies such as the Philippine Statistics Authority, NAMRIA, DNR, and DPWH. Internal university offices that provided institutional data. Third-party studies or consultants who contributed technical reports. Your LUDIP must include a references or bibliography section at the end of the report. And for maps and visuals, source attribution should appear in the legend or footnote of each map, not just in the bibliography. Why does this matter so much? Because when a reviewer questions a figure or a projection, you need to be able to point to exactly where it came from. Uncited data is unverifiable data, and unverifiable data does not belong in a planning document that will guide millions of pesos in infrastructure investment. Cite everything, always. Next, terminology consistency and glossary. This one might seem minor, but it causes more confusion in LUDIP documents than almost anything else. Imagine a reviewer reading your LUDIP and encountering 3 different terms for the same thing. Academic zone in one section, instructional area in another, and teaching zone in a third. Which one is the official designation? Are they the same thing or different things? The reviewer doesn't know, and neither, perhaps, does the writer. The manual requires that all specialized and technical terms be used consistently throughout the entire LUDIP. This means land use categories, such as institutional zone, residential zone, and green space, must be defined once and used exactly the same way every time they appear. Infrastructure definitions, utilities, pathways, stormwater systems, must be precise and consistent. Planning terms, zoning, setbacks, right-of-way, must match official usage from relevant laws and regulations. Acronyms and abbreviations must be defined on first use and applied consistently thereafter. And every LUDIP must include a glossary of terms as an annex, a reference that defines all technical language used in the document. Consistency in terminology is a sign of a team that knows what it's talking about. Inconsistency signals confusion, and confusion erodes credibility. Now, gender and inclusive language. This section reflects CPSU institutional commitment to gender sensitivity and equality, and it has direct implications for how you write your LUDIP. The manual provides clear guidance. Avoid gender pronouns when referring to generic roles. Instead of he or she, use they/them or restructure the sentence using plural forms. For example, instead of each planner should submit his report, write planners should submit their reports. Use gender-neutral job titles. Write chairperson instead of chairman. Write spokesperson instead of spokesman. These are small word choices that carry meaningful institutional values. When presenting data, include sex-disaggregated statistics whenever available and relevant. This means not just reporting total enrollment, but breaking it down by sex, so that planners can understand whether facilities and services are equitably meeting the needs of all campus users. Describe infrastructure and facilities in terms that emphasize accessibility for all, including persons with disabilities, the elderly, and other marginalized or vulnerable groups. Universal design principles should be visible throughout your writing, not just in one dedicated section. Inclusive language is not political correctness for its own sake. It is a planning principle. A campus that is designed for everyone must first be planned with everyone in mind, and that starts with the words we use. Finally, the manual offers a set of additional writing tips that apply to every section of the LUDIP. These are practical, professional standards that separate a good planning document from a great one. Tip 1. Maintain a clear and logical structure in every chapter or section. Each section should have a clear opening that states its purpose, a body that presents data and analysis, and a closing that connects findings to the plan's direction. Don't make reviewers work to find your point. Lead them to it. Tip 2. Use data visualizations to simplify complex data. Charts, graphs, tables, and infographics are your friends. A well-designed chart can communicate in seconds what 3 paragraphs of text struggle to explain. Use them, but make sure every visual is properly labeled, sourced, and referenced in the text. Tip 3. Prioritize evidence-based planning. Every development proposal, every land use decision, every infrastructure project must be justified with data or documented precedent. We think we need a new laboratory is not a LUDIP statement. Enrollment in laboratory-based programs has grown by 40% in the past 5 years, while laboratory capacity has remained unchanged. That is a LUDIP statement. Tip 4. Apply clean, consistent formatting. Use consistent headings, fonts, line spacing, and numbering systems throughout the document. Consistent formatting improves readability, speeds up the review process, and reflects a level of professionalism that reinforces confidence in your plan. Let's close with your key takeaways from Chapter 4. 1. All maps must follow GIS standards, WGS 84/UTM, Zone 51N, and include all required map elements. Incomplete or unstandardized maps weaken your entire LUDIP. 2. Submit files in the correct formats, .docs and .pdf for reports, .shop or .kml for GIS data, .xlsx and .pdf for spreadsheets, organized in a clearly labeled folder with a file directory. 3. Cite all data sources using APA 7th edition and include a references section in the document and source attribution on every map. 4. Use terminology consistently throughout. Define technical terms once, apply them uniformly, and include a glossary as an annex. 5. Write inclusively. Use gender-neutral language, present sex disaggregated data, and design your narrative around the needs of all campus users, including the most vulnerable. Technical quality is not the final step in writing a LUDIP. It should be a standard applied from the very first draft. In our next lecture, we move into Chapter 5, LUDIP Submission and Review Process, covering submission schedules and deadlines, naming conventions, the multi-stage validation and approval process, and the feedback and revision cycle. In other words, what happens after you finish writing? Because submitting a LUDIP is not the end of the process. It is the beginning of a new one. See you in the next lecture. For questions or technical assistance, reach out to the Planning and Development Office at cpsu_pdo at cpsu.edu.ph or cpsu.ludip@gmail.com. Thank you, and see you next time.